Hello and welcome. For today's episode, we are going to talk about the sunk cost. A sunk cost is a resource that has already been spent and cannot be recovered. All the sunk costs are fixed cost, but not all the fixed costs are sunk cost. A sunk cost cannot be recovered. For example, an equipment can be resold or returned at a determined price. Therefore, it is not a sunk cost. For example, let's take the organizations. The organizations must consider the relevant and the current cost when they are making strategic decisions that include the future costs that need to be incurred. A sunk cost cannot be considered in this context because they will not be able to alter one's choice. From the earlier slide, we have seen the example of the supersonic Concorde jet. The project wasn't profitable, yet investors continue to pour money into the failing project. The axiom that one must spend money to make money is expressed in the sunk cost phenomenon. Let's look at another example from the gaming industry. The World of Warcraft. In this game, the millions of players keep playing and they pay almost $15 a month on an average. They still play this game because they have already invested so much time and money into the virtual world. Let's take the example of Duolingo. The Duolingo confirmed that this specific investment wager step increased the day 7 retention by over 14%. Hence, research suggests that the rats, pigeons, mice, and humans are all sensitive to the sunk cost after they have made the decision to pursue a reward. After this, they will not be able to rational when to drop out of it. Let's look at the further slides to understand this fallacy in a better fashion. In this particular slide, let's try to understand why do humans fall for the sunk cost fallacy. Is it the case only in the business or is it the case in the personal decision making as well? Let's try to understand that with an example in place. Let us assume that we have spent rupees 1200 on a circus play and also rupees 600 on the go-karting experience. Unknowingly, you have booked both the tickets, but after a period of time, you have realized that both the dates are clashing and you'll be able to attend only one. Would you attend the rupees 1200 circus play or would you rather go for your favorite rupees 600 go karting experience? A majority of people would choose the more expensive trip because although it might not be that fun relative to them, but they would emphasize on the fact that it has costed them more. The sunk cost fallacy prevents you from realizing what the best choice is and makes you place greater emphasis on the loss of unrecoverable money. So it brings us to a discussion of four important verticals that makes us to fall for the sunk cost fallacy, which is the loss aversion, the tendency to avoid losses, the framing effect, to base your options on the positive and the negative frame, and having unrealistic optimism, which overestimates of a chances of winning, and last but not the least, a sense of personal responsibility, which urges you to complete what we have started, irrespective of the outcome. In this particular slide, let's try to understand how to avoid the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy can easily be overcome with mindfulness, dedication, and thoughtful planning. The root of the decision making must always start with a very specific problem that needs to be solved. The whys are very important. Next, ultimately, making the right decision without being emotionally invested is what matters the most. Our personal bias sometimes puts us off the track. And the third point, when comparing several options, a sunk cost is the most often excluded. Hence, always tread with awareness if you have excluded or included by mistake. Last but not the least, it's important to become more accepting of the risk and also not to be consumed by the risk aversion. Hence, a fine equilibrium of balance is required when you're dealing in business. To summarize, all we need to be is mindful, dedicated, and a thoughtful planning will set us far in life.